Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home, daddies.
Oh, hey, Aaron. Sorry, I'm just waking up from the weekend. Had a little lazy weekend. Didn't have too much stress. How about you?
Yeah, real slow week. Not having to worry about playing anybody this week. Felt pretty good to still put up 108 on my bye. But yeah, how was your week off?
Well, it was my week off in this league, which is generally my largest stressor. We're moving along in one of the others. We lost in what? It's fine. Small details in the fabric. I think we're coming at this from different perspectives because I would love to have to not really play this week, as opposed to you, who you're very excited about it. Our bye weeks meant very different things to us, but nonetheless, it was nice. Just I thought about benching every player just to score zero.
I did too. Yeah, but I had this thought of I didn't know whether or not this is just entirely self.
I already know where you're going.
Yep. Yeah, if it counted my points on the total standings sheet, and I was like, I have to put players in because I still want to be the highest.
because it absolutely does and will. And so good thing we didn't bench our whole starting lineup. Kamish is going to be taking down the blog all by himself. So we've got it split up a little bit so we can get a little taste of both and not have to worry about who's doing what and so on. You are going to be, for this week in particular, you will be getting all of the losers recap. So a recap and predictions for next week with myself and Mr. Unbiased number 1 seed championship vouching Aaron Zitch. And then
I get to talk about the losers with the eventual loser of the league instead of getting to focus on myself, sadly.
Catch the blog for if you're a winner, but I want to be very clear. If you're listening in and you're not in the losers bracket, don't leave. Stay here with us. You're not a loser if you listen to the podcast. Only if we're talking about you on the podcast, and I guess one of the hosts. But still, stay with us, and then also catch Kamish's blog with the winner bracket updates. Next week we will do our best. We're going to try and have we're going to have everybody on, and I don't know, maybe we'll have a little. Are you a fan of shit talk, Aaron?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll see if you end up there. It could be me and you with just 2 other people next week. Who knows?
I was going to say, I have Kamish this week. Granted, we'll have to read the blog to find out about that matchup. So, me or Kamish next week.
Yeah, I actually thought it was pretty interesting that Kamish didn't want to record, and he was like, yeah, we'll just do the blog because I don't know about you. I think he's running scared, man. I think he's running scared. But he's also real hot. But you'll have to read the blog for that. You'll have to read the blog.
And I will say, even though we're talking about the losers, honestly, we're talking about most of you in this league this week. So there's only maybe a handful of folks that we're not focusing on. So most of you are losers. To me, all of you are losers. But God damn it, I love you regardless. So.
Yes, precisely 5/7 of us are losers, at least. But there will be only one, and you want to talk about somebody else who's a loser. It just kind of goes along with the theme of my football this year, and those are the Chicago Bears. Because my Malort moment this week is I'm glad Glenn didn't take the bet that I proposed. Because I don't know, I'm curious. I know you're not Kamish, but would you have allowed that to happen if we would have openly our bet with the Bears and Browns and had a 5-point swing if it ends up being Glenn and I? Would you have allowed that to happen? Would you have been in favor of it?
I am not in favor of anything that would impact the validity of any outcome in this
fair
league. And
fair.
I do think, and I'll even say this, I even think that the golf thing was small, but that's small enough where it didn't really make a huge outcome where you guys got an extra option to pick up someone off the waivers. Obviously, it didn't work out that great being the bottom two teams, but that's even pretty close to something that can impact the outcome of the league. So I personally am not a fan of it. So
interesting. All right. Well, either way, I'm glad Glenn didn't take the bet for some extra points, because the Bears had Joe Flacco's number. Defense looked great. Justin, even though he didn't score a lot of points fantasy wise, didn't matter for me. He looked pretty decent. He was making some good passes. It felt like 2 weeks in a row, we're going to get 2 wins in a row. And then Glenn and I were texting, and I was like, yeah, no, I said, don't worry, bud. Like we will still find a way to mess this up. And sure enough, we did. Came down to the last play. I'm not sure those of you who saw the Hail Mary from Justin into the end zone, and Darnell Mooney was on his back, had it in his hands, and then just bobbled it, and it was just out. Could have won the game. But that's just kind of how things have gone for any football-related entity that has me corresponding, cheering, whatever for it. So 2 weeks, Bears were my perfect pour last week, and they are my Malort moment this week.
Lots of ups and downs, man. I mean, the Bears, at least you're still looking like you're going to get the top pick. That's one of the positives out of this. With 3 weeks to go, the Panthers haven't switched anything up from earlier this year. So at least there's hopefully a bright side to all of this. So we'll see.
How about you?
I will say for my Malort moment, and I'm gonna kind of follow my train that I've had all year of kind of catastrophic injuries. And I was actually texting with Seb about this guy, but it's Keaton Mitchell, and it's really disappointing. A guy that kind of came on at the end of the year, maybe had a chance to take over some extra work in that Ravens backfield. And I don't know if you all saw his knee injury, but was absolutely brutal, knee going the other way. And I don't know if I've seen the full diagnosis, but we did have Dr. PP give a torn PCL diagnosis in the group chat. So really tough look. I was texting Kamish because he's got him. He was really hoping that with Jamar Chase out, that Keaton Mitchell could be the one to fill in that spot. So, I've got Kamish this week in my matchup. He's down to Jamar Chase, and now he's down to Keaton Mitchell. Good in my favor, but for all of football, it's horrible to see these types of injuries, and we've seen kind of an unbelievable number of them this year. And so just, hard to see on this weekend. And I'm wondering how many more of those like non-contact type of injuries that we'll keep seeing. And maybe it's the turf, maybe it's not, who knows? But just awful to see another big injury.
I think it is the fact that we've moved away from having cow's milk and we've moved toward alternative milks, almond, oat, because their bones aren't strong. Their bones just aren't strong like they used to be. And I say that hypocritically.
He needs some milk. I saw that knee going, and that's immediately what I thought. He needs some milk. So
yeah, that's rough. There were 2 or 3 injuries this week that the broadcaster said, they were like, oh, and that we are actually not going to share this on the air. Yeah, I feel like since Kevin Ware, when they shared that, and they replayed like 3 or 4 times the compound for, and you see it happening, and then they're like, yeah.
I feel like I was watching that one live. One, and then the Paul George leg was another one.
Yeah. We were talking before, perfect pour Malort this week for like, we were like, we just kind of feel a little indifferent, but I still feel like you had a kind of a win score, and you scored pretty well. What'd you have this week?
A good week. 108, which I think was the number 4 or 5 score on the week.
It was
so it wasn't by any means an amazing week, and I left a ton of points on the bench. But my perfect pour is the guy who's been performing for me all year, and I gotta say it. There is not another MVP candidate that stands out to me as much as Christian McCaffrey, unless you're going to argue Brock Purdy. But I think it has to be a 49er. And truly, it should be Christian McCaffrey, and he had another awesome week. Had let me see. He had I had it up and then I didn't. He had 115 yards rushing and 72 in the air, so almost 200 scrimmage yards, in addition to 3 touchdowns. So I mean, I would be surprised, but that's not even his best performance on the year.
No,
The dude is far and away the highest valued fantasy player this year, and he carried me this far, but he's also carried the Niners a ton. I will say the only caveat I have for Brock Purdy is that he's averaging 9.9 yards per attempt, which is a stat that I think is really cool because it shows every time he's throwing the ball that they're gaining a first down, essentially. It really shows his value, and that would actually be the highest ever in a season. And every other player that's averaged over 9 has won MVP. So it was Matt Ryan's record in his MVP year. Really cool stat. Brock Purdy's super valuable and honestly is incredibly efficient. For those of you who might be Brock Purdy haters, what can you say? He's just smart enough to not throw interceptions. He's smart enough to rely on his weapons. I think he's a really good game manager and has led to a really great season for a lot of guys. Debo specifically has had a great last couple weeks. But again, my perfect pour is Christian McCaffrey going off, and I'm really just rooting for the guy for an MVP because I would love to see it not be a quarterback award, truly. If he's not MVP, he's Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think that's questioned, but I'd love for him to be MVP.
I think the only person that you could maybe throw in there would be Tyreek Hill until his injury, because he was having an absolutely outstanding season, but it's still, that would be like the only argument. I don't even think that it's that much of an argument just for devil's advocacy,
Yeah.
So really impressive, and man, that
prior to this last week, the other 2 candidates were Dak and Jalen Hurts. Dak had an awful game. Jalen Hurts has actually had a pretty awful last couple of games. So truly, I think it's a 49ers award to lose. And honestly, if it were Brock Purdy, it should be an Offensive Player of the Year and an MVP sweep for the Niners.
Yeah. And I'd argue the Super Bowl is probably theirs to lose too. They look like the most dominant team in the league this year. You know who was neither dominant nor not dominant this week? Both you and I, because we had buys, and the fact that I could watch my score slowly dredge up a very, very, very tiny hill to my total points, and who cares where I would have ended up at this week? It doesn't matter. And that's my perfect pour. You can't take a loss when you're not playing anybody. You can't take a win, but not lose, avoiding a loss is a win for this season. So that's my perfect pour. And to that, I do want to, I know that we're not supposed to talk about the winner's bracket, but I do just, I have to say, because I don't know if Commish will give it the value that it's worth, but Peyton, sucks that the first time that you get into the playoffs, you end up being the number 2 scorer of the week and still not manage to win, when somehow, Keegs, you're still piling through because Brandon got a whopping, ready? 69 points this week.
Nice.
A nice score, but not nice when you're trying to make a championship run. And so I just wanted to publicly say on said podcast that sucks for Peyton. I think he had a great season and really turned things around. And I want to say to my trade partner of 2023, you did well. I'm proud of you. Enjoy the off season and get the guys ready. Get them fired up.
I will say,
are you fired?
One positive note for the Tarkington Crawdaddies is they should really be rooting for TaylorMade this week, because if TaylorMade goes to the finals, either winning first place or second place money, Tarkington's number 2 scorer. So he's still got something to root for in this league. He could come out in the green if we see a victory from TaylorMade this week.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, all right, I think that's all the winners bracket stuff we can talk about this week without spoiling too much. And I don't know, I'm excited to talk about the losers bracket. I had the off week, and I'm ready to get back into it. I'm ready for the E-Dog Michelob Ultra fueled fury that claims that they're coming at me, because I'm avoiding that punishment. I don't love that it's really 3 punishments, which doesn't really seem fair in the means. But, hey, nonetheless, can you just remind, if you happen to miss it, maybe it got buried in the group chat, there's only 4 of us remaining, and we'll go through this here in a second. But we got some punishment. We got the punishment announced to us. And as you were one of the composers of these multiple punishments, why don't you, do you want to share with us just real quick recap of what's going on for the punishment this year?
Yeah, so I mean, really need you, Glenn, Evan, and Matt to listen in to really know, what you potentially could be, having as a punishment this year. So I will say, the winners bracket, we talked through these long and hard. And we did not simply think one of these was good enough by itself, but we loved all 3. And honestly, I will say it's 4 because we gave a choice for one of them. But punishment number 1 was the beer baby, which was at the end of our year. Once we've all wrapped up, we all get together, we go out, celebrate. But you will dress in a baby outfit, and you will drink the number of beers that you had losses in the season through a baby bottle. So for you, 4 wins. What were you, 4 and 9, 4 and 10?
4 and 10, baby. So
that's 10 beers on the night through a baby bottle. So that's number 1.
That's great.
Number 2,
that's great.
Number 2 was the Joey Chestnut, which is my personal favorite. You have PP to thank for this one, but the greatest sport, pride of Westfield, Indiana, the winningest champion in sports history. Ate 62 hot dogs this past year, and we want our champion to be doing the exact same thing. So 62 hot dogs over the course of a couple weeks, not over a couple minutes, but a course of a couple weeks. And we're going to give you the number of wins that you have divided by 2 weeks to get it done. So for you, it would be 4 weeks divided by 2. You got 2 weeks to eat 62 hot dogs. I think this is a great one.
You know what?
Because you got to blog all of them. You got to record it.
Oh, I think that's great. And you know what? If I do happen to lose, I kind of admire this one just in the means of, takes the decision of what am I going to eat for breakfast, maybe breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 weeks. Like they're all decided. I'm good to go. Or, maybe we triple or quad down for dinner. I don't know. This one is this is a great one. Shout out PP for coming together with this. And I love this one. I will say,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it does feel a little unfair, the number of losses you had on the course of the season. But I understand. I understand who you're trying to come after in this one.
Hey,
listen, I love a good dog. I love a good dog.
More impactful of the regular season on the punishment. So a win is a win, even if you're losing. And I will say there's a lot of strategy in this one, because are you going for the Nathan's hot dog, the traditional to go along with the Joey Chestnut? Are we counting brats? So if you get to enjoy a couple brats, but they're thick and they're filling, how are we going about these 62 dogs? I think there's some strategy to get it down. And personally, big dog fan. I go to a baseball game. I'm trying to eat as many as I can. But 62, I think, would even be pretty challenging for God's toughest soldier. So, I'm excited. I'm excited to see who gets this one. They must be recorded to count, and I'm looking forward to seeing some glizzies sliding down some throats.
Oh, I love watching glizzies slide down throats. But I do also want to say, I'm probably going to go with the mini weenies. Just do 64 of those bad boys. That's knock that out in a couple days. I don't know, man.
These are full-fledged hot dogs. The crowd gets to vote. If you film it, the crowd gets to vote on whether or not it counts. So If you're trying to cheese the system, buddy, it's not going to happen.
Oh, I'm not putting cheese on these dogs. No, that's a lot of cheese.
You ever had a dog with cheese?
Yeah, it's isn't that
not just like a chili cheese dog, literally just a hot dog with melted cheese on it. I used to do this shit when I was younger, like an American Craft single.
No, because I'm not totally insane. I put pickles on mine. Okay.
Well, when you lose, go grab like an American Craft single and just melt it on top of your hot dog. I'm telling you.
No,
my good buddy. He's passed away since then, but we used to do this all the time when we were kids. And every time I think about having a hot dog, just because of him, I think about putting a piece of fucking plastic cheese on these hot dogs. And don't come for me in the comments. I do it in honor of my dead friend. So you're an asshole if you fucking make fun of me for it. But I'm going to put a piece of cheese on my hot dog and love it. Last part of the punishment, and I'll actually talk about maybe a revision of the punishment. But the last choice, the third one was a choice originally, is loser's choice, which is a beer bitch or a beer mile. Beer bitch, you get to open all beers for daddies on draft weekend. I personally think this is a pretty easy punishment, but very loving. You get the opportunity to open everyone's beers. I think that's great. The beer mile is the one I'd like to see. And Ass and I were talking about this prior to. Chris would have had to come up with probably a root beer mile for this one if you had lost. That, luckily you're out of the running for this, but pun intended. 1 mile drinking a beer before and after the run and every 400 miles, or 400 meters. So that is 5 beers over the course of a mile. This one I think would also be a great one. I pitched to the winner.
Did you say 5? How many? So hang on, let's clarify.
It is a beer pre-race and then after every 400 meters. So your time starts.
But not at the end. So it's not a 6-pack over the course of a mile.
You have beer, 400 meters. Beer, 400 meters, beer, 400 meters, beer, 400 meters, final beer. So that's 5 beers. Can you
drink the beer throughout the course of those 400 meters? If I finish it in my 400 meter,
there might have to be some officiating to decide. I can't say that for sure.
Because I'm just saying, I've thought about this and we're talking 2 different scenarios. If you're wanting me to stop after, getting in a little running groove, chug a beer and then go and run again, as opposed to maybe, just a little beer run. I love a beer. I maybe double fist one.
R you win, beer run.
Either way, semantics, details in the fabric. But I think 2 of the 3 are fantastic. I think 2 of the 3 are totally fair. No beer bitch. I mean, you get out with all your buddies. Nobody wants to. Don't be a bitch. No one choose that one. Don't choose it.
So
don't come.
Here's our. And I will say for the beer mile, I thought it would be fun to have that be on draft weekend, and all of the boys we pack up and we run over to a local school and we do it. In front of everybody. So I know that's not possible for everyone. We might have to talk about it. The point of this was for us to have like an end of the year punishment, in the meantime punishment, like in between seasons, and then a draft weekend punishment. So I will say we did hear feedback from you all and we've been chatting about it, and I'm actually going to give the executive decision on air because no one's made a decision. I'm giving the executive decision. We are giving the option to the loser. And so listen in, the 4 of you, we're giving the option of the loser to pick 2 of the 3 punishments. So beer baby, the Joey Chestnut, or the beer mile. And we're going to make you the beer bitch anyways. So you get to pick 2 of those 3, the beer baby, the Joey Chestnut, or the beer mile to do. So you have a couple options. You get to nix one of them. You're going to be the beer bitch regardless. You get to pick 2 of the 3 to do.
But you have to listen to this podcast to know. Maybe this is the only place you're going to get it announced.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not putting in the group chat. Blake knows it.
I'm here.
Glenn,
I'll verify it.
Yep. Glenn, Evan, Matt, if you guys are listening, you get an option. If you don't say shit about it, you're doing all of these. Okay. So,
can you put let's put a time limit on it. Like within a certain amount of time after the loss.
Okay, so everyone, accountability here. Those of you who listen are active listeners. If we don't hear before the end of, or excuse me, let's say the end of the Sunday slate. Oh no, sorry. Yeah.
So it'd be the week after. So
Okay,
maybe
makes sense,
maybe it
makes
should be within 24 hours after you winning the losing championship. Is that fair? We're
Yep.
making the call on the fly right now. Screw Commish. He didn't want to show up. He didn't want to show up. So the bye boys, the bye boys,
Bye.
we are making the call. I love it. And you know what? You being the first seed and me being the bottom seed, I think that's a fair middle ground to make this call. So in summary, because I might cut some of this. So
Yeah.
you've made the decision. We have come to the consensus that you have to listen to the podcast and you have to text it to the group within 24 hours of losing. Now, maybe that puts me at an unfair advantage, but that's the one advantage that I get all season long, because Kenny Gainwell didn't do anything for me advantage-wise. Yeah, so you got to put it in the chat. You got to choose two of the three.
Yep. And again, I'm going to go through it one time. The Beer Baby, the Joey Chestnut, and the Beer Mile. You got two of those three, and you're the beer bitch anyways.
Yeah. Hey, I do also want to call out, just food for thought, two of our four guys in the final four of the losers bracket are out of towners. So maybe you guys all come down to Asheville. Maybe we do a retreat for our... Anyway, we are going way down. Hey, honestly, I know I threw some shit out there, but I actually love these punishments. What I don't love is the fact that I have to think about it and that I have to contemplate it, but it's making it fun. Yep. Let's get into let's talk about what happened last week, because arguably there were a couple PP and Victor. It was a good game. Peyton made a run at it, but I think some of the more entertaining matchups actually happened in the losers bracket this week.
I completely agree, and I want to say welcome to the losers, PP, Sea Dogs, and Crawdaddies. You guys had an amazing season. You are now officially part of the losing squad. We're not going to talk about your matchups, but you are losers.
But you're safe.
We love you.
You're safe losers. You are a loser in the best way because you're safe from the Joey Chestnut. But maybe you want to share a dog. I don't know. All right, let's get into this first one. We got Diggs and E-Dog. This one, I'm trying to recall. I think this one was pretty close, but Chris kind of walked away with it toward the end.
Yeah, he did. And I will say, put up a really great number. And a lot of the high scores came out of the losers bracket this week. Trayvon Diggs, I didn't give him the credit. I actually thought he would end up losing a couple matches here, especially after putting up the -5 on the first game of the week. Dude comes back and puts up 113. He's the number 4 scorer on the week. And I will say, the Cooper Kupp Puka Nacua worked out here. Terry McLaurin, someone who hasn't showed up all year, put up huge points. And I think you made some great moves to on your roster this week. Ty Chandler, I saw a tweet about him. Someone realized his name's Tykevius Chandler, and they said that's fucking cool. He's putting up 30 this week. 23 is pretty damn close. Tykevius Chandler fills up that score sheet, and you got a lot out of all your other pieces that you needed to. So great week from Diggs. E-Dog would have had some wins with other matchups this week, but yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of running the middle. Rachaad White had a fantastic game, and we already talked about how Brock Purdy also put up a bunch of points this week, which was great. I don't know about the sustainability, and also let's not forget the fact that 22 points came from the Dolphins defense this last week playing the New York Jets. So, hey, I do want to call out Brandon Aubrey, who I believe is as long as he didn't miss any, and I don't think he did in their game because they only had one PAT and the one. Yeah, he is the only perfect kicker on the season. So you were giving him props last week.
31. Yeah, 31 for 31 and at number 1 kicker. And I don't even think it's relatively close. And the same week that I remember this, same week that Trayvon Diggs picked up Brandon Aubrey, I picked up who was the former Cowboys kicker that missed 3 field goals in the playoffs. He was kicking for the Rams. Hold on, I'm looking at it. I'm going to restart that. I have his name.
Are you talking about Maher?
The same week that he picked up Aubrey. I picked up Maher, and Maher had a great couple of weeks, but then he got cut. And so I regret it. This is my only regret coming out of the season, that I didn't pick up Brandon Aubrey. It was between him and Maher, and I made the wrong choice. So cheers to you. That's a great pickup, and it has worked out in your favor. Granted, your kicker and defense only combined for 1 point as compared to E-Dog's 23. So fuck your saying about defense and kickers win championships. But hell, in this instance, 1 point was enough to get Diggs out of the losers bracket. So cheers to Diggs. You don't have to worry about the punishment. You're chilling the rest of the year, and we look forward to seeing kind of a redemption year next year.
Roommate showdown or roommate for a little longer showdown of Jack and Matt. We got the Jacks and Room 40, and man, we straight up called this. Well, I think two of us. I think me and you had actually Jack losing. Doesn't matter, whatever. But Jack's team has gotten a little too hot, a little too late because he's put up some really good scores these last few weeks.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, Debo has come online, and he has I have been kind of a Debo hater, honestly, for a while now. I just think he's not been as good of a pickup as he should be. But over the last 4 weeks, he's had 18.9, 33.8, 30.5, and 19.9, and stack that on top of CD's late season resurgence. Jack had a very scary team, and so I'm really glad that it's not in the winners bracket, and I'm really glad that he kind of got some performance out of his guys. I have been a big Room 40 lover all year, and he just hasn't had his team show up in the weeks that he needs them to show up. And I will say that I think the thing for him all year has been team management. That when he's had people blow up, they've been on his bench. He's had weeks of Kamara, Henry being on the bench, Kyron Williams being on the IR, but he's got 20 on the bench from T. Higgins. I know that wasn't enough by itself, but I think Room 40's team is still scary. And going into the semifinals in the losers bracket, I think playing against Room 40 might be a scary situation. So, and we'll talk more about that coming up, but I think Room 40 still has a great team, but another just down week for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the thing, it's not for a lack of management of him not knowing what he's doing. I don't think I would make any calls that he has not necessarily made. He just has a lot of players who are either boom or bust, and that's kind of the summary of his season and how it's all kind of played out. But let's also give Jack credit for what we're just talking about, defensive kickers, but defense in particular, again, 25 points from the Raiders, and the Browns got 14 against the Bears because the Bears. Yep. All right, let's get into this. I believe this should be our last one before we get into predictions for this next week. And this might have been one of the best matchups of the week, arguably. We had Sir Coxlot, who just missed the playoffs, versus the two-time defending DDC, Draft Daddy Classic champion, and also our biggest in-season loser of the Draft Daddy Fantasy Football League, Glenn Shin. And man, this came down to more or less what was going to happen on the very last drive of the game. Would Jake Elliott get a chance to kick that? We had 86.58 for Sir Coxlot to 83.76. Aaron, walk me through. What were you thinking? Who were you cheering for? What did you want to happen watching the Eagles tromp down the field?
Well, I personally thought the script was too good if Jake Elliott would kick the field goal and Glenn would win on a walk-off field goal over the newcomer. I was honestly rooting for the Eagles to win that game selfishly so that the 49ers would have more to play for and hence more to leave their players in. I was really thinking, wow, this is a close matchup, and it shouldn't be a close matchup at all. I think Glenn's had a lot of these, and Cox is kind of, this was an opportunity for him to beat up on Cox, and I think Cox got away with one. So you're safe. It was a good first year in the league. And you just missed the playoffs, but you would have been out this week anyways with that 86. Even Team Keith.
Maybe, unless you...
So I think we'll look forward to next year, and we have an opportunity for a three-peat, kind of going on Michael Jordan status here for the G-Train Rats in the losers bracket. But we'll see what happens next week. I'm actually kind of rooting for sorry for the other three of you, a non-G-Train loser this year.
Yeah, we'll see. I wonder if Glenn does end up either being a loser or losing this week and then being in the championship of losers, the losership. how much he'll be kicking himself that he didn't go with his buddy Baker, and he chose he got Flacco fever, as he said. And that really, man, that came back and bit him, because the points are right there on the bench, and yeah, that's got to hurt.
Old reliable
a wee bit,
Baker
just
Mayfield would have got it
But
done.
hey, the beautiful thing about him losing here is he's got another chance to do it next week.
Yep.
And next week he will be doing it. So with our reseeding that we had, it will be him versus Room 40. So anything else on the? Oh, and yeah, I think we kind of already hit on this, but so safe teams to recap. The losers of the winter bracket would be PP, Sea Dogs, and Crawdaddies. And now we got Diggs, Jack, and Cox are the three safe teams. They'll all be playing each other in one way or another for practice, just getting ready for next year. But just a reminder to not let your teams just go to waste, because we do, and this will be the wrap-up cast. We'll go through this, our all-time standings that we are keeping. So you still want to score points. We still want you to just put points up on the board. That's going to be important if that's important to you, because we are talking about doing something special in year 5 for whoever's leading that at the end. So don't give up on it. Keep going, boys. We still got games to play. Every game does matter in one way or another.
Yep. Great caveat.
Aaron, do you want to lead us into some of these predictions?
Yeah, man. So we've got 2 matchups this week in the losers bracket. We're not talking about the winners bracket. 2 matchups in the losers bracket. I think we're honestly more interested in who the loser is going to be than who the winner is going to be this year. So our first matchup I want to talk about is Room 40 and G-Train Rats. So with our seeding, G-Train and Room 40 are getting matched up. And I said it earlier, Room 40's team is still scary. So I think this is a really good matchup this week. I think that G-Train has a lot of guys that can go off. And I'm really excited to see what happens with this matchup. Going into this one, I myself and honestly probably ESPN would give this very handily to Room 40 just on paper. Of the positions, he's projected to beat out G-Train in everyone except for his kicker. It's all going to come down to whether or not Room 40 can play the right guys. If he can put the right 9 on the field against G-Train's 9. I don't think G-Train has many options aside from maybe Baker and Joe on who he wants to play. But I do think that this could be a really good matchup. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what these 2 teams put together. And I think for G-Train's sake, it's whether or not some of his guys actually show up. He's had some guys who just don't show up certain weeks. And I think that if he can blow up, he can beat anybody in this league. But I think Room 40 is, on paper, the better team here.
All right, so I think I'm tempted to agree with you. I mean, on paper, I think it's hands down going to Room 40. But Glenn, I'm curious what he's going to do at the QB position this week, because that was, like I just mentioned, that was kind of his downfall in the previous week. But the real question is going to be, is Calvin Ridley going to show up? Is he going to get both feet down and get the touchdown? Maybe. If not, Joe Flacco's got Houston, which would be a scary matchup, I think, comparatively to Baker having Jacksonville, which could be. The cross-state rivalry are always fun, and there's some potential there. Aaron Jones has Carolina, so maybe he can get something online. They're still playing for something real big, and for Room 40, AJ Brown had a real off week last week, as the entire Philadelphia Eagles did. But they've got the Giants this week, one of the highest points given to any offense except for maybe the Commanders and also the Jets. So AJ Brown has potential to absolutely blow up, and I would anticipate T. Higgins ends up getting to that starting lineup one way or another, maybe over Brandon Ayuk against the real tough Baltimore defense, and they've proven that time and time again. So I don't know. It's going to be a real interesting matchup across the board. And like you said, I think that there are probably just as many eyes, maybe more, across the league to see who ends up being the loser, more than who's gonna take home the ship, who's gonna take home the obscene Frankenstein trophy from previous rabbit trophies that my father had.
We love it.
We'll see.
In my prediction, I'm going to give this one to Room 40. So I think G-Train's going to have to fight for himself in the losers championship.
Yeah, I'm following with you on that one. Kamish has not submitted his to us, so we'll have to see what I'm gonna assume that he's gonna go. I assume he's gonna go room 40 on this one. That's my bold prediction. So I can't imagine he's gonna pull the G train on this one.
All right. Well, speaking of well, I guess there's not really a speaking of. Let's jump into the other matchup, which I think one you're maybe more personally invested in. So talk to me about your matchup this week.
Yeah, after our bye week, we had a really good week of practice. So I think we sat Bijan last week, wanted him to actually we went negative points on him just because we were like utilization. We're going to go ahead and pull that down. It wasn't a great game for him, and he needed to get in the right mental space. So I think he's got a good week coming back. Also, Saquon had a real rough week, and against the Philly D, who on the ground they will give up some free yards, and Saquon's just as dangerous in the air with Tommy DeVito. I like my team this week in this matchup, mainly because I don't think that I would trust, if I was E-Dog, I don't think I would trust a lot of the starting lineup that he has going this week. He's got Brock Purdy against that Baltimore D, which I was just talking about. And I don't know if you can trust either Warren or Najee Harris right now to get you any solid amount of points. And as it stands, he's got the Dolphins and D. They've got Dallas, and I don't imagine that that's going to pan out very well for the Dolphins. They score a lot of points against bad teams, and they score very few points against good teams. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. But obviously, I am going to choose myself. But if I'm not going to, so I'm going one way or the other. I either want Room 40 and E-Dog or Glenn and I. Like, there's no in between. If Glenn's going to be there, or if I'm going to be there, Glenn has to be there too. It only feels right, and I think we will have a close matchup. I think that it'll be up and down, lots of emotions over the next week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at ESPN's predictions right now, it's 100.6 to 100.7. That's as close as it could be. Right now, you're predicted by 0.1 to take the win in this one. I think that looking at teams, E-Dog has Brock Purdy, MVP candidate Brock Purdy, and a better running back room. Or excuse me, a better wide receiver room than you do.
Wide receiver.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got Justin Fields, which can put up points, but can also be a major dud, and a better running back room. So I think you both are really close, honestly, in this vein. I honestly would advise both of you to pick up new defenses this week. Drop the ones that you have and get literally anyone else. And I think that we'll have a really close matchup on our hands. And I think that I'm looking forward to seeing who wins this one. But I am going to say with Brock Purdy's MVP status and with Justin Jefferson returning to the lineup, hopefully for good this time, that I've got to give it to E-Dog, man. I think that E-Dog's going to squeak away with this one, and we're seeing an Assville versus G-Train matchup in the championship.
If that's how it's going to be, that's where I'd like to be. Assville and G-Train, but we'll see. I think that there's some potential. We'll see what happens on waivers tomorrow. Who's picking up what? If not, I guarantee you the Ravens will be dropped. They have a real tough schedule for the rest of the season because of said MVP candidate. And I think the week after that, they have another tough matchup. Can't remember who it is. But my advice to Evan, because I know you love the podcast, you listen to it consistently. And if you do, I'm so sorry, because that was direct shade. But if I was Evan, I would definitely, I'd get Deonta Foreman in there. Arizona's got a bad, throw him in your running back core. Adam Thielen is due. He's due. Antonio Gibson also due. And Tyler Conklin, like, if the Jets are going to pop off, it's going to be this next week. So if I was you, I'd go ahead and sit all your other, I would get Jefferson, Devonta Smith out of there. And get Conklin in there at tight end. Kyle Pitts, he's pretty much done. But yeah, and the Dolphins defense has potential to really go off. So
yeah,
leave Zay Flowers. He's good.
Real sound fantasy advice from the man who went 4-10 this year. Take it as you will. We'll see if you take any of that feedback, but God help you if you do.
Well, whoever ends up being in the losers bracket, we'll have him on here. I'll be on the cast next week, one way or another, win or lose, to observe, or maybe to have to get my the good old hockey shit talk dust it off a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm watching this bracket more than the championship bracket, but also really excited. I'm excited for your matchup. I think it's going to be a hot one, and best of luck to you. I'm pulling for TaylorMade because I don't even
Because fuck the commish, he's not here.
I don't even know what Commish is up to. Yeah, fuck the Commish. He's not here. We'll see if he even listens. We'll see if he even listens to this episode.
Yep. Well, daddies, in other news, Rashard Mendenhall is calling out all of us white folks for a white versus black racist bull. So I want you all to be thinking about what we got 13 white daddies, and we need to figure out who we're putting up against Vic. All right, this is for respect. This is for honor. We got nobody on the edge who's covering Tyreek Hill, so we need to think about who our cornerback is going to be. I don't know. I might put Jack out there. Jack might be able to cover Tyreek Hill. So I just want you guys to be thinking about what our optimal lineup looks like in these coming weeks, because this is, fantasy season's great, but Rashard Mendenhall's calling us out, so we got to be thinking about what our lineup looks like.
That's great. Hey, Aaron, I got a little something for you. It's it's a week of we're 6 days away from Christmas. And Merry Christmas, by the way.
Merry Christmas to you, buddy.
You've been handing these out all year, just willy nilly, and I just want to say to you, mwah,
what
mwah,
losses?
I love you.
I've been handing out losses all year.
Yeah, you have been handing out losses. You've been handing them out to me.
Kisses. Mwah.
Kisses. Merry Christmas, daddies. Merry Christmas, and best of luck to everybody playing this week in a matchup to decipher your future. And if not, like I said, still get those players in there. You still got something to play for. Aaron, any last words?
Daddies, thanks for sticking with us through this year. If you don't have anything to play for this week, thanks for sticking with us through this long podcast. I know we said it would be short. It wasn't, but we love you. We love hanging out with you. And we love making this pod for you. So cheers to you, daddies. We love you, and we look forward to these next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, should we go ahead and do the go into the second segment of the podcast this week?
Yeah. And now on to the next one. So we love you, daddies.
Yeah. All right, daddies, love you guys.
Mwah. Mwah. Mwah.
Hey, yeah, I'm moving in. I'm sitting on this beat. This is Christmas. You know I got that heat.
Fire.
I got heat. Yeah, I got bars. My beats bang from here to Mars. My flow cold like Jack Frost feet. I'm on the beat, and you know I'm finna eat.
I'm hungry.
I spit hard, yeah, I spit hard. I got snowman in my yard. Your girl call me next big star. Y'all don't really get the message. I be holiday flexing, blast off just like the Jetsons. These other rappers stressing, in all black just like a penguin. I'm in charge just like a kingpin. Plus that on my phone is ringing. It's your girl, she trying to sneak in. This is Christmas, I'm on a wish list. I got bread, yeah, I got bread. Got your girl in my sled. Paint be candy, apple red. Flow be stuck in your head. That's your dancer prince. Comet Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, Rudolph ran off saying it, think he missing, but he really chillin'. All the brothers here in Delta Kappa Alpha, spreading that holiday cheer. Know we about to drop this fire album. It's Christmas time, and we got them rhymes that are so mighty fine. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow.